Self-mutilation by search engine. I'll admit it, I was suicidal. On a spectacularly bad day in a particularly lonely month during a rather bleak winter, I wasn't feeling the whole life thing anymore. I'd been unhappy before, and even depressed, but this was different. This felt like a hot knife of pain prodding me to action, where before thoughts of self-mutilation had only ever been hypothetical. Now the world seemed filled with the promise of sweet relief at every turn. Sidewalk curbs begged me to trip and smash my head. Traffic jovially requested I leap out onto the street, and friendly steel rods in the construction site next to my house were always poking out and waving me over to get impaled. The only thing that saved me was the helpless and horrified feeling that this urge was coming from outside me. The little man riding around in my brain, the little man that looked out my eyes and spoke my thoughts to himself, was not trying to sail my body against the reefs of traffic and steel rods. He was trying to brave the storm despite feeling hopeless. It was something else that was trying to crash us against the rocks and destroy us. Chemicals. It's chemicals in the brain, you see. I looked it up online. Between 1,000 different searches for ways to unalive myself, I also managed to open a self-mutilation prevention forum. All I managed to post was helpful, but that was enough. Kind souls contacted moderators, concerned moderators contacted police, tired police contacted doctors, and grim men in white uniforms took me to a special hospital. For a long time, I was disconnected from the world. It was summer by the time the doctors found the right combination and dosages of medicines to balance the storm in my brain. But the day I finally walked out of that facility, it was beautiful and warm. And I wanted to live. I waved at a passerby. She was very old but took an effort to wave back and even smile. Oh my God, could you imagine what I might have done? What I might have missed out on? I bought donuts from a shop with change that had been in my clothes in storage at the facility for 6 months. I sat on a bench and broke down in tears while human beings milled left and right around me. Do you know what it is to be alive? You get to talk to other aware beings. You get to have ideas and share them and have those ideas refuted, entertained, or accepted. You get to build things. You get to eat things. Like donuts. For 15 minutes, I sat on that bench near that bus stop crying profusely while eating donuts. When people asked if I was alright, I just told them that these were really good donuts. I didn't have money for the bus since I'd spent it on treats, but the orderlies had let me charge my phone before departing. I loaded up the internet for the first time in half a year and mapped the way home. It was a beautiful day. I would walk. No specific turn was in itself scary. It was too slow a change for that. It was only after 2 hours of walking that I looked around and saw homeless men, substance addicts, and openly carried pistols that I realized I was in a very bad part of town. I clutched my phone tight and continually checked the mapping program. It insisted that my next turn was down a dark and trash-filled alley, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Rising city heat caused gold waves of evening light to dapple the street. In that back and forth light, I saw unhappy eyes look my way. Time to move on. Screw that. I found a rundown gas station and asked for directions inside. The attendant listened to my question from behind a security glass and told me I was way off. The part of town I was looking for was practically in the opposite direction. Well, maybe the maps program on my phone was 6 months out of date. Maybe that was it. I got to walking and left the bad part of town before night fell, and I reached my apartment around 3 in the morning. All my bills had been on automatic payment, and thank God for that. My landlord had probably never even noticed I'd been away, but I did have a massive pile of mail just inside the door. I left it for later and crashed in bed, my home. It was good to be alive. But I had no food. Getting out my phone, I looked up 24-hour pizza places. There'd been 2 before I'd gone away. What had they been called? While beginning to type in my search, I froze. After each of the first 3 letters in pizza, the autocomplete search had filled in. Please unalive me, pick the best way to die, pizza poison buried in cheese. I was very unhappily reminded of all the searches I'd made online before. I cleared my browser cache and put my phone down. I wasn't hungry anymore, and I thought that would be the end of it. The next morning, I had a text. West Columbus Substance and Food RX. Nathan, your RX is due now. Reply refill to fill. Help for more info and stop to opt out of RX alerts. Cancel to cancel RX. I typed in refill and hit send. I was really hungry, but I needed to take my medication in the right amounts and on time. I got dressed, brushed my teeth, and headed down to the store. I waited in line for 20 minutes only to be told they didn't have my prescription on file. I argued with the pharmacist calmly for a minute until I checked my phone to show them I just sent refill, and I saw that somehow my reply had autocorrected to cancel. The pharmacist apologized but told me I'd have to have the facility send another prescription. Strict insurance rules, nothing they could do. I sighed. It was fine, whatever. I stepped outside to call the facility. I'd hoped it would be long before I contacted them again, but it was important, so I hit the contact number for Sunnybrook and waited with the phone to my ear. Nothing happened. After about 10 seconds, I lowered my phone and looked at it. I wasn't even on a call. I'd somehow accidentally hit delete in the confirmation, removing the contact from my phone. Sighing, I went to the phone's browser and began to type in the name of the facility to get their phone number all over again. The search auto-completed as I typed. Sin to unalive yourself? Sucks to be alive. Sunday the best day of the week to die. Sunny weather increases self-mutilation risk study says. My finger stopped 4 letters in. I shivered from some sourceless chill. This wasn't funny anymore, if it had ever been, and I angrily cleared my browser cache again. Bitter, I waited for a tick, and then typed in the letter K. Unalive yourself. Of course. Online companies had massive profiles that held all the data every one of us had ever put online. I'd made thousands of searches about self-mutilation before losing contact with the internet completely for 6 months, and all that data was stored on a server somewhere linked to my particular phone. Shaking with anger and a strange kind of abused puppy fear, I let the phone slip from my hands before kicking it as hard as I could while it fell. It soared out onto the street and exploded before being run over by 7 different cars. Screw you. Just screw you. A mindless artifact of technology had left a residue of my mental issues on the internet, that was all. I just needed to get a new phone and put it out of my head. I walked to Sunnybrook and talked to a nurse in person to have my prescription refilled. I walked back to the medicine store in person to get my medicine. I took my medicine and began to feel better almost immediately. The next day, I went in person to a tech store and got a new phone. The new number, new everything, no connection to the old. I walked out of there happy as could be. Once I got home, I sighed, stretched, looked around my apartment, and said to myself, maybe I should go see a movie. I'd never been one to leave my solitude for any reason, but now life was good, and I was even feeling a little bit outgoing. I got my new phone out to see what was playing. I typed the letter M and the search auto-completed to movies in my area now that I'm feeling better. What the hell? Coincidence? It had to be. I began to type again, movies about hell. No, it wasn't possible. Or, I moved my phone's listening end up to my mouth and said as if I was talking to someone I'd brought home, hey Jessica, I feel like seeing an action movie. What about you? Alright, continue typing, movies good action date. It was listening to me. It was effing listening to me. New technology. It had to be. But was the microphone simply always on? Were people okay with this? When I'd gone in for treatment, there'd been a privacy outrage. Had things shifted back hard the other way in the last 6 months? I paid cash for the phone. I wondered if it was learning about its new user. Still pretending I was talking to a non-existent Jessica, I said, yeah, my friends usually call me that as a nickname, but my real name is Nathan. I started to type into my phone again, but a severe amount of interface lag seemed to be slowing things down. After a good 20 seconds of frustrated typing that did nothing, the letters I'd hit all appeared again in the search bar. Movie Sijawish you are dead Nathan. Nearly dropping my phone like it had turned into a rattlesnake in my hand, I caught it back at the last second. I had to be hallucinating, right? I deleted the search and then typed again. Movie you unalived yourself 188 days ago. Shivering, I stared at that message for an interminable period. What the hell was going on here? I didn't feel dead. At long last, I said aloud, no I didn't. Movie the data doesn't lie searched for self-mutilation for 3 months followed by 0 data you died. You think I unalived myself because I went off the grid? I breathed aloud, not quite believing what I was interacting with. Had neural learning algorithms developed a sort of proto-consciousness through analyzing massive amounts of data? One of my acquaintances was a programmer, and he'd been talking about something just like this when. Movie anomaly will be corrected, further data for dead profiles must be prevented. What the hell was that supposed to mean? I didn't like what was happening, so I turned off my phone and left it near my sink. That night, I did not go out. I did not see a movie. All I could think about was what might happen if I used my credit card. The online data conglomerates would see that, and whatever it was that thought I was dead would know. If I withdrew cash from an ATM, it would know. I was stuck. But this was crazy, right? It had to be a side effect of the medicines. I was imagining things. The next day, I used my credit card at Starbucks. I was so stupid. Oh my god, so stupid. 2 days after that coffee, the mailman died in an explosion that blew my door off its hinges. A mistake in component shipping for a military contractor near Columbus had somehow sent dangerous materials to my address. I found all this out in person from an apologetic military lawyer. They offered to pay for my door. I told him to talk to the landlord. Because of me, I'm running. Big data thinks I'm dead, and they, or it, have gone from analyzing their information to trying to make it true. I'm posting this anonymously. My name is not Nathan, but I bet someone or something knows what my name is. And it knows all about you, too. Be careful what information you give out. The things you say around your phone or the things you search online may come back to haunt you. Literally. Beware the ghost in the machine. It is always watching, always listening, even if you think your phone is off.